Mary,
I
what do
should
you
go get those.
anticipate the order for Monday, April 12th, Washburn City Council meeting. Welcome everyone, good evening. First we'll start with roll call.
Dave Anderson. Here. Carl Broberg.
Here.
Jennifer Mazias.
Here.
Mayor McGrath. Mayor McGrath. Tom Dimas,
Here.
Karen Spears Novacek,
Here.
Laura Tulowitzki. Laura Tulowitzki.
Not yet.
Not yet. 5 present.
Okay, we still have a quorum.
I think the internet is still down in parts of the city.
Oh, really?
We haven't had it all day at our house.
Oh, is that CenturyLink?
The school didn't have it either. Yeah.
Oh, boy, okay. So we could be having technical difficulties throughout the city. But we're okay. And some people are okay. Well, hopefully, if Laura isn't able to join us online, maybe she can come back. But either way, we have a quorum, so we will proceed.
Laura's on.
Excellent.
Hey,
Hello there.
the number was missing a 1 at the end in the code.
Oh,
Y'all notice that?
all right. Next, we'll have our Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, our next item is approval of minutes from the City Council meeting of March 8th.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second?
Motion by Tom, second by Karen. There were just a couple of tiny minor edits per the usual. Nothing of substance. So if everyone is okay with that, we will take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is approval of monthly expenditures via roll call vote.
Madam Mayor, I would move approval of the monthly expenditures as reviewed.
No second.
Motion by Karen and a second by Laura. Anything out of the ordinary or any comments, questions?
Nothing that I observed.
All right, all in favor?
It's a roll call.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
Tom Dimas,
Yes.
Karen Novacek,
Yes.
Laura Tulowitzki,
Yes.
Dave Anderson,
Yes.
Carl Broberg,
Yes.
Jen Mazias,
Yes.
Okay, that's everyone?
Yep.
Next item is public comment. Is anyone here from the public who would like to comment on any of our items tonight? Anyone online?
This is Jeremy Oswald. I'd like to, if this is the time to do it.
It is.
Thanks. My name's Jeremy Oswald. I live at 401 West 5th Street in Washburn. I was on the city council when the council of the city decided to take on the Broke Down Palace. I just wanted to say I encourage you to continue on with your working with the brewery. It seems like a good match for that piece of property. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Jeremy. Would anyone else like to make a comment?
Yes, my name's Nick Wills. Me and my wife own Coco's,
Hi, Nick.
and we'd like to we think it's a great idea with this thing with the Broke Down Palace as well. And I'm told now that they want to tear it down, which is all fine and dandy too. We just want to make sure that our wall gets secured because that's a common wall there.
Good point. And could you just state your address for the record, please?
Yes, it's 208 and 210 West Bayfield Street is the business.
Very good, thank you. Anyone else for public comment? I'm not seeing anyone, so we will move on. Next item, mayoral announcements, proclamations, and appointments. So I just have a few announcements. First, I just wanted to say congratulations to our re-elected council members. Some of you I've seen in person and some I haven't. And also, thank you, good job to all the staff and the poll workers for the election. And hopefully this is the last one where we'll have to do some of these drive-up voting things and things like that. But it went, as far as I know, smoothly as usual. And again, thank you for all of your work. There's quite a few poll workers here throughout the day that fill all those different shifts, so much appreciated. The second thing I'd like to say is COVID cases are rising in Mayfield County and across the whole upper Midwest. And so in light of that, I'd like to urge everyone to please continue to wear masks when you are in public, and please get vaccinated as soon as you can. If you are unsure about anything relating to that, please call the COVID hotline at the Mayfield County Health Department. It is on the county website. There's a COVID, right at the top of the screen on the county website. You can click on the COVID page and get all of that information, including the number for the hotline. If you don't think you need to get the vaccine, please reconsider. It's not just to protect you, it's to help protect the people around you and our community, and to get the virus under control. So I would just urge everyone to please listen to our health experts and proceed with that so that we can nip this in the bud. The next thing I'd like to mention is the community branding survey that's going on. We have had a great response, so thank you to everyone who's participated so far. We have, I believe, over 300 surveys have been filled out already, and it's only been out for about a week. And we are blowing away other communities that have gone through this process with extension, which is great. Not as many people are quitting before the end of the survey as they've seen in other communities. So great job, keep up the good work on that. And I'm excited to see the results and finish that process. I do think it's really important for us to decide who we are as a community and have an identity that we can all wrap our arms around and tout and be proud of, and make it easy for us to talk about who we are as a community and make it interesting for people to come here and visit and maybe decide to live here someday. So that's just one piece of the puzzle. That survey is still up on the website. If you go to the city website under planning, I guess it's under more at the top, and then planning and development, and then community branding has its own tab there. And that's where all sorts of information about this process lives, including a link to take the survey. Next, just wanted to mention that we will have 2 more food distributions in town. One of those will be this Wednesday, April 14th, and another one 2 weeks from then on April 28th. I don't know how long this will go on. This could be the last of those, I'm not sure. But we do have those 2 dates, and so please spread the word. It'll be at the same time again, I believe, at 1 o'clock in Washburn. They'll go to Iron River in the morning and then come here in the afternoon. And it's great to be able to do that. So please, again, help spread the word on that. And the last thing I'll mention is another thing that was in the newsletter that went out with the utility bills, and that is there was a little blurb in there about an Earth Week pickup. This is a great time of year to look around and see all the garbage that has presented itself, that was buried under the snow somehow over the past number of months. And so I actually was, believe it or not, reading the comprehensive plan the other night. And in the comprehensive plan, it actually specifically talks about a community-wide cleanup like that, in addition to the one that we do at the yard waste site. Literally going around and picking up trash in the community. It's one thing that we can all just put a little effort into, and again, take pride in the community and do our part to pick up some of that trash. And so what we've done is we've arranged with our Public Works Department that you can stop in anytime that week, Monday through Friday of, April 19th to the 23rd, for trash bags and gloves, and pick up trash anytime that week or through the weekend, and then just leave the trash bag at any intersection. So any cross street, and the Public Works crew will go around and pick up trash bags as they see them that week. And the Ecology Club is joining in, and they have adopted a portion of the highway, and that's what they're going to focus on Saturday the 24th. So the rest of the city is wide open for whoever wants to just jump in there and pick a spot and do a little pickup. I think it would be great. I think we could make a huge dent if a number of people just took one bag of trash pickup. I've been eyeing my garbage that I'm going to be picking up, but I never have a glove with me, so that's what kind of made me think of this, is walking the dogs and never having a glove with to pick up the yucky stuff. So thank you in advance for anyone who wants to join in and not only help clean up our community, but just kind of celebrate Earth Week too while we're at it. And that is all I have for announcements. I was hoping to be able to have some announcements about all the federal funds that are hopefully going to be heading our way, but details still are few and far between on that. So stay tuned, and I'm sure we'll have some additional information hopefully by the next, not by the reorganization meeting, but by the May meeting. Hopefully we'll have some information on that. That is all I have for announcements. I do not have any proclamations this month, and I don't have appointments yet for this meeting. We'll be doing that, a number of those at the next meeting, the reorganization meeting on the 20th. So with that, we'll move on to our next item, which is discussion and action on structure at 204/206 West Bayfield Street to retain or allow it to be raised as part of new development. That was tab 1 in your packet, and I believe Badger is here to answer any questions that anyone may have on this item. So in the packet it talks about the plan and the need to possibly rethink the plan, basically. And it certainly makes sense when you look at the further damage that has occurred with the roof issue, especially. That building just may not be worth saving. And for someone who is ready to invest a substantial amount of dollars in a new business that will hopefully be around for quite a long time in our community, I, for one, think it would be wise to go ahead and tear the building down and have a brand new building to work with, where you can control not only the quality and the design of the building, but it will last for a good long time and be easier to maintain and take care of. That's my 2 cents, but If anyone has any questions, or Badger, if you'd like to,
Well, I should at least say hello. Thanks a lot for having me again. So yeah, basically, the gist of it is we met to work out our development agreement, and I threw the materials packet that you all have together, looking at the roof assessment, the building assessment, and we went through the engineering assessment that was done and tried to address those issues, and you know, the short of it is the building's wet.
Hey Badger, sorry to interrupt, but I can't hear you very well, so I don't really want, and I don't want to miss anything or ask you to repeat it, so.
Oh, I appreciate that, sorry. Is that better?
there you go.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so the Reader's Digest version of that is the building's wet. So the things that were called out in the structural assessment report really haven't been addressed, and that's just led to further degradation of the building. And the best suggestion I can come up with is to raise the building. I can't really justify the cost to preserve the building. And again, look at the packet you've got, look at the information. So I'd like to move forward with that approach.
Karen,
Petra, I have a question, and it may be premature in terms of the thoughts you've had in terms of design, but one of the comments in the packet of information that we received was that we might want to advocate for the ability to have it constructed in such a way that a second story would be workable in the future. And is that something that you are amenable to doing in terms of the design, or, well, in terms of the design?
Karen, I think movies on the roof would be just an awesome activity. So I'm all for rooftop patio seating, and we are trying to work that into the design. The biggest cost drivers I have are if an elevator is needed. That's a major cost driver. And you know, ingress, egress, so you need two methods. But we are working on that, and I do not have any renderings, but John, the architect who we met last time, is indeed working on things.
Karen, did you mean a second floor of enclosed?
No, just whether it was structured in such a way so that, 10 years down the road, 2 years down the road, if a second story was warranted for some reason, potentially, well, we can't look to the future for 15 years. Let's say 15 years, and you've decided to do something different, Badger, and we say, oh, if we only had a second story. I'm not saying a second story now, I'm just saying structurally, the trusses and the walls potentially could support a second structure. That's my question.
I won't purport to be an architect, but I do know we built for snow roads, so half of that was done.
Thank you.
Hey Badger, I'm going to ask you to, it's hard for us to hear the response, so if you could just speak a little bit slower and a little bit louder, that'd be great.
Sure. So Karen had asked about second story possibility, and I'm definitely looking at patio seating in the upstairs. And again, if she was also saying if in the future does a build accommodate the possibility of adding, building upward. And I said I don't purport to be an engineer or an architect, but generally speaking, we build for snow load here, so that's half the battle. But it's definitely on our radar, and the biggest concerns I have with cost drivers for upstairs seating or elevator and ingress egress, because you need two forms. But all we can do is we're working on the renderings right now, and we'll see what we can do, and that is the plan. We'll do our best.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Does anyone else have a question or comment? Tom?
Badger, when you go to tear this down, a lot of people in the city say the building's junk should go. It's an eyesore. Are you going to protect your shared wall with coke woods?
Obviously, yes, so those we are hoping become an integral part of what we are doing, as some of our menu is dependent on their baking talents. So, yeah, by all means, and there's something we're looking at. I'm in the process of getting bids for demolition now, and that's what's on people's radars, how we preserve the common wall. Do we have to shore that up? Personally, I would love to make it part of our interior because it would maintain some of that feel and some of that vibe. I don't know if we can, I just don't have that answer, but completely on the radar, yes, we are making sure we don't damage the common wall.
Excellent.
I
Carl?
have a question.
Did you have something, Carl?
Go ahead.
Okay, Jen, go ahead.
Yeah, and this might be premature too, but it's kind of part of all the, I think, information we need to make a decision tonight. In terms of, as you know, Washburn's kind of always goes through a little bit of identity crisis. I mean, we're even going through a poll right now online that talks about the feel and the welcomeness of our community and things like that. So we've talked a long time about what is the style, what is the, what is Washburn going to look like? So I agree that the current building, right, is not like you don't look at it and go, oh, it's so amazing, right? but it does have I would say a little bit of character. It does have some brownstone on it. So my question for you is, your thoughts of a new building in terms of the overall feeling and what you feel Washburn should look like in the community in the downtown sector? I mean, I know that we don't have a theme. I know we don't have an architectural review board. I know that we don't have certain, like you need to have a brownstone appearance. I mean, like I get all that. We don't have a lot of things set up. And so I guess my question for just in general, but like I said, this could be premature. What are you thinking of that building to kind of look like? Because I know like nowadays some breweries are kind of modern looking, have, just a little bit different feel to them. So I guess that's my question to you, Badger.
So we are premature in that I don't have any renderings whatsoever, and that's going to be our starting point. But my biggest take is for me, I think we should have our foundation in the past, but not be anchored to it. So I want to have that foundation and be looking forward. Modern industrial is not my jam, so not really where I'm at with that. But it's got to fit. That's the bottom line. It needs to fit, and no matter what we design, it still needs to be approved by planning commission as well. So it's not like I can willy-nilly just throw something up that's some figment out of my imagination or whatever. It's got to fit.
No, I hear you. The problem is when we say it's got to fit, nobody really knows what that looks like for our community, right? And so I was just trying to get a feel for what your take was in terms of the overall, feeling of how you, Anyway, I appreciate that. The other thing that I have a question on is your cost comparison is a $450,000 difference. And in looking at it, it seems like too, there's some underlying other costs here that are probably going to be a benefit of the new construction, just in general of, and maybe it's not true, of just increased efficiency and heating and, everything. But I guess if you were going to do a total gut and tear down, maybe some of that would have happened anyways. But it seems like probably the benefit of a new building might even be more than the bottom line of just the comparison between the reconstruction and the new building. But appreciate the numbers. Appreciate you bringing it up now. So thanks, Badger.
You're very welcome, and thank you for bringing that up as well. Flat out, I did not come near close to calling out everything an issue. I stuck to basically cost drivers that were inherent to the building. So, like the structural engineering report calls out several things that need addressed, and those are real cost drivers that led to this. But I did not incorporate into energy efficiencies, not the contingency that I would have to maintain an old building, especially spaces that I wouldn't be using in the first phases of construction. So you're dead on to call those things out as well.
Before I call on Carl with a comment, I have a quick question for Dave. Do you have anything that you'd like to add as far as the plan commission goes and the guidelines that you'd like to add, or?
Well, without seeing an actual set of plans, you know, there's really nothing that we can add at this point. Was there something?
Well, just in general, I mean, there definitely are guidelines that have to be followed.
Yes.
Even though it's not specific to a style necessarily. There are elements of the style that
There's
would.
certain building components that
Right.
are allowed in the business district. But as far as an architectural review on the actual, the style, that's really not what we do.
Sure.
It's more or less the building components, making sure that, there's no vinyl siding and that kind of thing on the building. So no vinyl siding. Please.
And Jen, just so you know too, we did talk about preserving some of those elements that are there, like the brownstone that is there, and anything like that that is of value that could be potentially incorporated into the design somehow, whether that's exterior or interior or whatever is to be determined. But definitely acknowledging that there are some of those elements that could be worth saving and highlighting. Carl?
Yeah, I would make a motion to approve the negotiating committee proceed with plan to replace the building with a new building.
I would second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Does anyone have other comments, questions, discussion?
May I speak? This is Nick Wills again.
Move to open the floor.
Second.
Okay, motion to open the floor and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, Nick, go ahead.
Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just, I think Jennifer's right. We don't really have a style here. That building is, it's pretty much shot. I went through it and I came out to about $1.5 million just to get it workable. And so I understand what it takes to make that happen. There's other concerns I had is if it was going to be done, that they would, block off and the sidewalks and everything so we can still continue conducting our business. And then, this is all up to you guys, I understand that, but it doesn't, to me, and most of the people I've talked to in town, anything is going to be better than what that is. It doesn't really, I don't think there's any brownstone on that building other than our common wall, just the corner of the old post office building. The rest of it is all garbage. I mean, don't get me wrong, the building is a strong building. But it's not conducive with like a brownstone facade or anything like that that you could even possibly incorporate into another building. So I mean, whether it's modern or what style it is, it's going to be a heck of a lot better than what we got going on there. Anyway, then like I said, they make those things that go across the sidewalks and everything else, and just for safety and stuff, so we can continue to conduct business there too. That's all I got. I'm sorry.
No problem. Thanks, Nick. Okay, any further discussion,
Close the
comments,
floor.
questions?
Make a motion to close the floor.
Second the motion.
Motion to close the floor, second by Karen. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. I think then we're ready to take a vote.
So just one last thing, and it's somewhat unrelated, but.
Can you just speak right into it?
Yep, you know, the whole theme of Washburn is something that I've been pushing for a while, and I think, you know, we're at the point, I think, where we need to start thinking about what that is, so that people, when such as Badger, when they come to us, it would be easier for them to understand, you know, what direction they need to go in. Because at this point, I think, you know, Badger's architects are gonna draw something up in their mind, might fit, but the community may not think it's such a great fit, you know. So I don't know if that's something we handle in the new comp plan process, so maybe we can address that when we're dealing with that. So that's all I got.
Okay, I think it's very timely that we're doing so much planning right now all at the same time, and the comp plan update is occurring right now. And so I would encourage everyone to please be cognizant of that and pay attention and join in when there are opportunities for input on the comp plan update, as well as the community branding survey and any other you know, planning process that we're going through right now. I think it's really important. This is our opportunity now to make any changes or additions to that, and I think that would be helpful to everyone, is having some sort of a consistent theme or something like that. So thank you, appreciate that. Okay, I think we're ready to take a vote. All in favor of,
I guess,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I don't want to hold it up, but this might be the time to bring it up if we need to add any conditions or amendments, because it's come up before when there are first available or something that for some reason someone finds value in, if it could be considered, if there are resources of value that are salvageable, if nonprofits first and local businesses would be considered if they were interested in salvaging or using any resources that would otherwise be removed from the property or otherwise disposed of and not needed for the construction plan. This is an unknown. We assume there's no brownstone or anything, but if it's not needed, if that could be perhaps the attention for use elsewhere in the city, buried below or whatever. I realize it's not an easy thing to pinpoint, but if Badger, if you could keep that in mind, I guess it doesn't really need to be a condition, just a consideration of, you know, the community and trying to always replace and improve brownstone features in buildings if you don't need.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I guess anyone speak up if that needs to be added to the motion, but.
I think the motion is going to stand as is. I think that's a good note to consider, and for the committee to. Sure. If you'd like to, you know, just make that a suggestion for the committee as they move forward then with the consideration.
Yeah, it's a resources issue. I always want to use what we can and, you know, reduce as much waste as we can too. But then someone said, well, what if there's a bunch of brownstone buried under there? I said, well, we'll make sure it's not wasted and built on top of. All right, thanks, I'm ready.
All right, very good. So then all in favor of the motion to approve the committee to continue with negotiations with the plan to raise the building as part of the new development. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Excellent. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Badger, for
Thank you, Beth.
taking this turn and moving forward.
Thank you all.
All right. Next item on our agenda is discussion and action on renewal of lease agreement of Thompson's West End Park boat ramp area for North Coast Community Sailing. Becky Zaylant, petitioner. This is tab 2 in your packet.
There are no changes?
Becky, is that you on the line?
No, that
Or
was
is she not here
That was
tonight?
Laura.
That was
That
Laura.
was Laura.
Laura, sorry, go ahead.
Yep, I'm just wondering if this is, the lease agreement any different from last year? I didn't read it in detail, I'm sorry.
So before, I think this is similar, but before we even talk about the actual agreement, I guess I wanted to ask a couple of questions. One is, I couldn't quite tell if there is a charge or what the charge is for membership to North Coast Community Sailing. And are the classes included for members at no charge? Is that the only charge there is? I'm just wondering how that works. Ooh, someone has an echo going on.
Somebody's got their hand up there.
Let's see, who's that?
Someone listed as George. I just muted them.
Okay, thank you.
But
Can you repeat that, please?
I'm just wondering how the program works. It looks like there's a membership fee to belong to North Coast Community Sailing, and then the classes that they do down there, I'm trying to figure out if that's part of just being a member, that you, or is there an additional fee to take a class? And are the classes only open to members? There's no information here on how the program actually works and what their, what their benefit is. Are they raking it in, or are they giving things away for free? Just any sort of background on this. I
know the director, and they're not raking it in.
I'm assuming they're not raking it in. But
they're struggling. They merged with Bayfield Rec Center as of last year, I think. Bayfield Rec Center took it over. And it's just a service they provide for summer tourist kids and local people to get on a little sailboat and learn how to sail. So I don't
so
know
you
if
join the membership and then you get to take the classes?
I don't know if you actually have to be a member. I think it's a service they provide for a small nominal fee to rent it
Okay.
for the day or for the morning.
my understanding is, like, as Dave said, it is part of the rec center in Bayfield, and they are offering classes for youth and some weekend sailing that will include adults.
Is it for a fee?
But you pay for those
Yes.
classes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I just couldn't tell by the way that it doesn't really say that in here, I guess.
No.
Well, Mary, I think with the commercial use ordinance that we've been talking about, I think that's a fair question. So when you go on their, like I'm on their website right now, and you can't really tell how much,
Right.
it is, and I do, I've had my kids in it, and I do think it's not like it's really expensive or anything for what they get out of it. It's a pretty amazing program for kids, and I also think they do a sliding scale. But I do think it's a fair question, because obviously, this is something that's really good for our community. But, a couple of things that I have with this is that if anybody spent any time at our beaches last year, we had 2 beaches that were very popular, and this is one of them.
Right.
It is a very, again, we have 3 places that you can get to that have a sandy beach in our community to swim. West End Park, where we want to have people go, the kids, they always kind of go over here where we're setting this up because it's just sandier. The cove there in West End is just, it's a little bit muckier. That's the bottom line. And Coal Dock, we know what that looked like last year. And then our little beach in the middle of the walking trail, that there's never a time you don't go down there where there's people swimming. So I think the main thing is, and Tony put it into his memo, is that he's been talking about relocating them to a different area. And I think you know, looking at the walking trail and looking at how we want it to look down there and buildings and what we want, like, I mean, I think this is a good use, but it's also takes up quite a bit of space, and it's predominant. So, you know, last year when we cleared that area with the picnic bench at the end, that little spit, I mean, there's people out there all the time.
Yes.
I'm in favor of approving this again this year to get us through. You know, moving because of everything that's going and where we're. So Laura, the only real change from last year's lease is they're actually locating their equipment on the other side of the trail, on the beach side, which is going to make it even more crowded.
I was gonna ask if that's a necessary component, because I think that could be problematic, having all of that crammed into that one side where there's really not a lot of room to begin with. And anytime I went there were quite a few people at that beach. And I'm afraid that moving the equipment all over to that side is going to just make it more congested and less usable. I'm not sure why there's an issue with keeping the equipment where it is now on the other side.
My understanding, when I met with Becky, and I can't remember the gentleman's name who's more connected with the program on their board, was that their sheds used to be on that side of the trail, and it was the city that asked them to move it to the other side of the trail. They even pointed out the location. It was my suggestion to relocate everything on one side of the trail to keep the trail open and visible for public use. From the comments I've received in the past year is that it seems like the trailhead is hidden because the sheds are right there, equipment is on one side.
And I think part of that is a lack of
relocate
signage.
on one side, then we would have a visible access to the trail from anybody coming from the parking lot.
Would signage help that issue? Isn't there signage in the works to make the trailhead stand out?
Yes, but then the concern would be is where do you put that sign, and is it in front of a shed or behind the shed? And I have been talking with Jerry assuming this would be approved, as to where to locate their equipment once on the other side of the trail to make it functional for them and less of a eye appearance, I guess, or an in-your-face appearance when you're walking up to the trail.
So in your opinion, there is sufficient room for the equipment to be on the lakeside as well as it being utilized by the
I think
public?
it can be located in a way in that you will still have a visual look of the lake as you're approaching the parking lot or the trailhead. And then the biggest things would be the sheds, putting them further, or I guess more where the tree line starts. So there's already a visual break in your eye line with the trees, with sheds. The open area would be where they have been maintaining and storing their boats. That would not change.
Tom?
My only concern was this, some of my constituents, some of them, Dave probably knows who they are, they've been using that boat landing down there, the one guy owns 40 years now, that's where he puts his boats, and they're worried about being able to park down there. They said, when this is going full bore, there's no place to park.
So speaking of going full bore, what is the amount that North Coast uses that area? Is it like once a day? Is it once a week? Is it multiple times a week? What's the amount of use that they give it down there?
I think their classes are 5 days a week. On the weekends, it varies. I was told by Becky that this summer they are limiting the amount of activity they typically would have there. So they're shortening their season. But I don't have the specific dates, and they didn't have that developed yet.
Okay. So daily though, or 5 days a week?
Correct. There would be a camp essentially, a sailing camp, you could say. And I don't remember, and maybe Jen, if you know, are they all day or is it a morning when your children were
It's most of the day.
Okay.
I mean, they're usually like, I think, I remember right, it was like, some were like 10 to 2 or 9 to 1, you know, so I mean, there's a fair amount of, depending on how many kids they have, of, you know, it's pretty busy. But also, most of the kids just get dropped off. So I'd say the parking spots are, it's not like they take up 20 parking spots most of the time, and a lot of the kids walk down there and get dropped off. And you know, and maybe it's just the season right now, but, and maybe now that the marina ice is out, maybe people start using that boat landing, but we're gonna have a park. I mean, we've improved our boat landing. We're starting to improve that area, so we're gonna get more and more people, right? It's gonna kind of like be like the coal dock. We're just seeing higher uses, and I mean, I think again, I mean, and Tony, I trust you in terms of you and Jerry placing the equipment in different locations, the shed and stuff, but we've talked a long time about the Parks and Rec Committee about making an attractive walking head, you know, walking trail, you know, archway and you know, partnering. We have money and a grant to do that, and partnering with the Historical Society to make a really nice entryway and kind of clean that area up. So I do think that that's a goal. I'm not so sure we're ready to set that in motion and really kind of put the hammer down this year of not allowing stuff there and kind of figuring it out. And so, again, I've thought a lot about this, and I really love the North. I think it's really good for our community, and I'm okay again this year approving this lease, but we really have to start working towards getting this in a different location in the future. If we start to see issues, and I just suggest we monitor it this year. Last year, Tony, they didn't do any, they were closed last year. There was no sailing last summer.
Correct.
So, kind of hard to compare what happened, like with the numbers and stuff, from 2 years ago. So, I think we should, I guess, my thought, where I feel like I would feel comfortable voting, and I'll make a motion to approve this, and do a pretty big monitoring, and then and set some goals to do some changes next year.
And, sorry, was that a motion, Jen?
Yes, I'll make a motion to approve the lease agreement with North Coast Sailing.
And that's with the equipment being relocated to the lakeside? Or not? I don't know if that's part of the agreement.
So the agreement I have in here identifies that area as that would be their lease.
Okay.
So in past years, their lease size was actually bigger. It included that beach area plus a section on the other side of the trail.
So
Sure.
their sheds are currently within that zone right now?
No, they're not.
It's consolidating it all together.
Correct.
And kind of further back along the tree line, not at the, like, basically where you cleared for that visual a couple years last year. It's kind of, you're gonna locate it further down, correct?
Yes,
To the west,
east.
east.
So trying to keep an area open still for use by the public when they're not there with the boats. Okay.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, so there's a motion by Jen and a second by Carl to approve the lease as stated in the contract. Are there any other questions, comments, or discussion?
Do they own?
My other comment is,
Sorry, Jen,
I was down
sorry.
there,
Go ahead.
I was down there today, and there's more beach than what we've had in the past too. The lake is a little bit down, so there's a little bit more room down there, which is good news.
Dave?
Do they own the sheds?
Yes, they do.
And they're going to move them?
That was discussed. It would either be them or we could do that for them. And they were fine with them or us doing that.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions, comments, or discussion?
Sorry, I have one more thing.
Go ahead.
and I don't know if we need to put it in the lease or anything, but Tony, I do think for purposes of, I mean, this is an agreement to use city land and for a profit with, you know, and maybe it's not for a profit, but it would be good for us to know a little bit more numbers in terms of what their financials are, just so that we're all very comfortable, like, hey, this makes sense. This is good for our community. Nobody's making money, a ton of money here. We shouldn't be charging them the $500 or $700 fee, because this is a lot what we're talking about with exemptions, right? And I don't think they're an actual non-profit,
They are.
right, David?
They
Are
Oh,
they?
They are.
They are. Okay, never mind.
So that's good, but I agree, Jen, I think it would be nice to have a little bit more information, including a little information just about the program itself and the benefit to the community. So I would like to see, at the end of the season, I would like to see a presentation at City Council by North Coast Community Sailing, if possible, to just share some photos and stories about, you know, the good program that it is, just so that we can all become more aware of it. Those of us who do not sail do not know about it.
But even at the, Mayor,
Yes,
but even at the beginning of the season, it would be good for them to share, well, and I'm sure they do, they have some publicity about the sailing classes that are available, but we could put that on the city, you know, website or Facebook page to say, hey kids, this is available. You know, and this is what the fees, you know, charges are. It's something that is happening on our city property and in our community.
Right, agreed. Thank you. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any other questions, comments, or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. And I guess in the actual relocation of those buildings, let's just make sure that we're comfortable with the location of where they are and that you really are keeping the most accessible by the public as possible.
I think also this discussion we just had speaks volumes of the lack of access we have for folks. We have the most shoreline out of any municipality, and you can't hardly get on the lake except for 3 little spots.
Right.
And I think we should explore the possibility of expanding what we have to get more access for folks.
Keep that in mind for the comprehensive plan update. Okay, let's move on to the next item. Discussion and action on decorative streetlight design for Bayfield Street reconstruction. That is tab 3 in your packet. And I think we have Mike on the line. If anyone has questions from AIRS. Hello, Mike. Thank you for joining us.
Hello.
So Mike led a group of us through some discussions, and let me just tell you, there are a lot of lighting choices in the world. Oh my goodness. And so, you know, we had to give some thought to not only, you know, what are the guidelines for the type of lighting that we needed to follow, but also, you know, style options. The choices that we ended up with, and I don't know, Mike, if you want to give any sort of a summary or introduction to this, you are welcome to jump in here, because you might be able to do that better than I.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. So yes, we led an extensive search and kind of had a couple of premises of, do we want to stay historical? Do we want to go more nautical with the lake, take advantage of the lake, the fact that you're on the Great Lake? And at the end of the day, it comes down to height versus spacing. the further you put the fixtures in the air, the further you can space them apart, the lower your cost. The shorter they are, the closer they are, the higher your cost. And then it comes down to decorative preferences beyond that. And what you see here are a couple of pendant style. So option 1 and option 2 are both pendant style lights. Option 1 is more of a marina nautical style. It does not have a glass globe in it. It is a flat lens fixture, so it is dark sky compliant. The Glassworks option, similar situation. It is a flat lens, so nothing extends above the horizontal plane. So that was also important to look at with the night sky, the stars, the northern lights, everything. And the other option, or the other discussion that we had was there are fixtures, Ashland is a prime example of a Memphis-style esplanade where you can get them further up in the air and spread them further apart. But do you want to be like any town in USA? Or does Washburn want to be unique in what they're doing? So the group felt a little more toward the unique and less toward the common. And that's how you kind of arrived at the three options here. The option 3 is the Granville. Those are based on the poles and fixtures that are out at Good Time. Historically, those lights came from downtown Washburn. And that, as far as I know, those are the only remaining lights from that period that were used. So that's the old gas light style, where it's a post top acorn versus a overhead pendant style. Harder to achieve dark sky in that scenario, but back then they weren't as concerned about dark sky. They were just concerned about getting light so people could see. The pole style is a very how do I want to put it? Can be very customizable pole. It's fluted, so it's somewhat decorative, has a decorative look to it from a distance, but is very functional for mounting banners and flags and planters and Christmas decorations. Yeah, there you go.
We got it right here.
Show and tell. So the heights can be adjusted, can be modified in the future. It's very customizable. So that's kind of where we came up with these three options, and the 8.5 by 11s that I put together kind of talk about some basic scenario. Everything is LED, so most efficient energy source that there is available. The other common energy sources are high pressure sodium and metal halide. Not as efficient as the new LED technology, and LED is almost not new anymore. It's been around for 10 plus years already, and very efficient, many lumens, much light on the street for the wattage of power that you have to put into it. But then I kind of went through some advantages, disadvantages of each one of the alternatives. Alternative 1, as I mentioned, kind of has a round arm about 4 feet out from the pole with a cable that goes back to the pole. Similar to what is in that brochure, only modified slightly. Option 2 is, again, a horizontal arm with instead of a cable, this would be more of a bracket, round arm, round bar that comes out and has a pendant style hooded fixture mounted 4 foot as well, hanging out over the roadway. And then the post tops, those are a 16-foot mounting height. So just from a distance perspective, on these 21-foot mounting height options, about every 125 feet, you have a pole on opposite sides of the street, similar to what you have out there now, as far as spacing goes. If you were to go back to the post-top Granville style, you would cut that spacing in roughly half. So about every 70 feet on the opposite sides of the road, you'd end up with a pole. So you doubled the number of poles by going with that short. You can't get the light out onto the roadway. And as part of that, we have to maintain a certain average illuminance for the highway. And we are at the low end of that guideline. We're still within the recommendations for all three of these options. And then we also have to meet a uniformity so that as you're driving down the street, it doesn't go dark to light to dark to light. So the dark isn't as dark and the bright isn't as bright. So the average uniformity, so more of a nice glow of light.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
The uniformity makes sense, but I feel like I don't think this was from you, but months ago, I was under the impression that the highway didn't require lighting. We don't have to have it lit at all, which is where we started thinking about a shorter light post, trying to find something cheaper than the highway size light post might be why this is a feasible option for us financially. But I'm getting a different story.
So the DOT has made a determination that they don't feel the highway needs to be lit. That is correct. If the city does light it, other than a splash at an intersection, it does have to meet the standards though.
Okay.
So if we didn't have lights at all in the city, we wouldn't need to put lights up if we didn't want to. But
If
since,
we do have to reach a certain luminosity,
right.
Correct.
you're saying? Okay.
So that it's not a detriment to the motoring public.
Okay. No one's thinking about just saying, forget it, we don't need lights?
No, I had to ask that question because when I saw that back in the notes somewhere, it was like, oh, really? We don't even need to do this? So thank you for clarifying
Dated
that.
with lights on the buildings, maybe?
A question for you too, Mike. Are these parts interchangeable? Is that correct? The different bars and cables and such?
Correct. So the bases you'll notice are different. The option one has a Charleston decorative base. Option 2 has a Hamilton decorative base. And option 3 has both the Charleston on the right and the North Yorkshire on the left. Those bases are all interchangeable. The arms are interchangeable between option 1 and option 2, or the cabling bracing back to the pole itself is interchangeable. Fixtures obviously are interchangeable. The banner brackets, there's as many different styles of lights there are, as many different styles of arms to hold the banners. So we can get into that in the future as we look at that. Same with light pole holders or Christmas decorations, whether you have candy canes or wreaths or Rudolph or sleighs or
Snowflakes.
musical note.
Okay.
So yes, these are interchanged. So if you do like one base over the other, you can interchange that. So it might be a combination of 1, 2, and 3.
Okay. Tom? Sorry, go ahead, Mike.
No, I was just going to say, as the team members found out, the possibilities are endless.
Yes, indeed. And speaking of that, one of our counselors had a suggestion. Tom, if you wanted to talk about that at all?
Yeah, I like this, not the fixture of the glassworks, but I like that second pole, as long as it's all, everything's aluminum. And possibly, I don't know, people I talk to, they like this arm with the light on it that everybody has a picture of.
So just out of
So that is-
curiosity, just out of
that is
curiosity, did you,
a
sorry,
style arm.
a candy cane style arm, yes. So I'm curious, did you show the people the options, or you came up with this?
No, we found that, and I kind of showed them the straight, the straight arm that's on there, and then that, and they liked that. The ones that I talked to.
So the advantage for a candy cane style is you would mount, typically you would mount the candy cane on top of the pole, and the pole wouldn't extend above the candy cane. In that particular picture, I believe what you're seeing is a sidewalk light, and then there's another fixture above that.
You can see part of it.
Yeah. Oh, sure, so that's the back side, like the sidewalk side.
Correct. And with these fixtures, you would not need an extra light on the backside just to light the sidewalk. This will provide enough light on the sidewalk to provide safety and security.
But you're talking about that style.
Right.
So that wasn't one of the three options that was presented, and I guess ideally I'd like to stick to three options. And so theoretically, if we were to, decide on one that we didn't like for sure, of the three that are in the packet, Tom, you could certainly make a motion, to replace one of those with this, if that is something that you'd like to do, and try to get that into the mix, and, see how people think about that. Does any, and we can still.
There's a website to look at right now to get some better images of what these would look like in real life. Is there a manufacturer's website, Mike, or I just couldn't find these specific lights just by looking up the title?
So if you go to the manufacturer on the light for option 1 is Cyclone, CYCLONE lighting, and it's their marina option. If you go to that website, you'll be able to see it fairly quickly, I believe. The Glassworks, the manufacturer there is Holophane.
Which is like HALOPHANE.
Yeah, HOLOPHANE.
It was really not easy to get a good visual of what it would look like in real life, and that's why these photos were included from brochures, just to show what they look like in real life. And then the technical drawings are on the website. So it's really just a concept at this point, a style
Yeah,
preference.
We weren't able to get photo quality renderings from the manufacturers. And these are unique enough that they don't have this exact installation anywhere that they have a photo of.
Mayor?
Karen, go ahead.
What is our timeline in terms of making a decision regarding lighting?
My understanding is that they would like to know as soon as possible, but we have at least a month to play with. If a decision were not made today, we could certainly finalize a decision in May and be in a good time frame. Is that correct, Scott? Yeah.
It seems to me that there's still a considerable amount of thinking through and gathering additional information. You know, the unfortunate thing is we're dealing with something is April of 24, correct? But decisions that need to be made now and information that we don't yet have from the branding committee, the comprehensive plan, you know, so you know, in the ideal world, all of those things would line up. So we would know exactly who we are, what we want to look like, and where we want to be in 10 years. None of that's going to happen. It seems to me that another month, and if that's okay with the timeline of ADOT, was that? That was back in Arizona momentarily there. I would suggest that we continue to talk about it, maybe get some more information. As Scott, you suggested that potentially we could put it out on our Facebook page and get some input from the community to look at the various options if we can narrow it down to 3. That would be my thought.
I think that's...
Let's gather some more information and come back in May and make a decision.
Yeah, get it. I think it would be great to be able to take some more time to get community input on this, because this is the first, you know, everyone has seen these 3 choices here just in this past week since the packet came out. And so I think timeline-wise, I agree with you, and also process-wise, if we can keep it at 3 choices, regardless of what those 3 are, if it's the 3 before you or whether someone wants to make a motion to make a change in one of those, that I think is a good plan to move forward.
Well, we're gonna have to make a decision in the next 30 days. So the other factor we haven't talked about here is the cost, and this is just the first thing that's coming our way that's going to have a dollar sign in front of it. And I would hazard a guess that we're going to have a whole lot of other dollar signs in front of us for decisions that we make along the way. So we should not lose sight of the cost differential here.
Agreed.
But once again, they don't all line up at the same time, because they're probably, you know, they're difficult.
Yeah, but that's the way this project is gonna go, is we're gonna wind up having to make cost decisions along the way, so we need to be prepared. There's a substantial cost difference in these. This is just the first one, I keep reminding everybody.
Correct, and that's something that if we did end up making a change to the options here, I don't know how quickly we'd be able to get cost estimates together on a different option. You know, if one of those was replaced with something like the candy cane that Tom had the picture of here, would we be able to get that information in a timely manner so that we can include that if we put it out for public input then?
The candy can would be, the arm itself isn't a large cost item difference to go from one arm to another. Really, the cost difference comes in the fixture.
Okay. And so is that fixture similar to number 2 here, the Glassworks? It kind of looks like it is.
Yeah, that would...
Yeah, we can, what I could do if somebody wants to see, I could take option 2 and put that on a candy cane instead of a horizontal arm, just as a different look to it. And then whether or not they're scrolling in that arm or if it's an empty arm, you know, those are options too.
Okay, hold on one second. Tom?
Well, what I was reading in here, if I understand this right, option 2, that that pole is also the most economical one for us, most cost efficient.
Well, the
Because you get into the
pole-
shorter ones,
The pole is I think the same type of pole, but
Option 1 and option 2 is the same pole.
okay,
Does the candy cane light extend into the street far enough? Or the
You're
picture
talking-
we have here is, you feel is a sidewalk type?
So these are 4-foot arms roughly. We could get a candy cane that is 4 feet away from the pole. The
Okay.
one you have there was probably 2 feet or less. So it would be a little bit larger style candy cane.
you can kind of see the bottom of that mount.
That's what I
Makes it
was-
stand out further, yeah.
So we would keep the fixture in the same location, it's just that arm then would be a U shape coming off the top of the pole.
So, as far as the timing of coming up with a drawing and a cost estimate,
I could get that those updated drawings yet this week.
okay, so within a week for sure, and then we'd be able to put out, if people want to see that as an option. So right now, let's look at the way this is worded. We've got discussion and action on decorative streetlight design for Bayfield Street reconstruction. That could be anything.
I would like to ask some more questions before we move on, just so we know.
Oh,
what we're
sure.
really
Go right
Thinking
ahead.
about, to make use of that time. Well, first, was there a motion already?
No.
I thought Karen made a motion to,
Nope. That was just a suggestion.
well, I am hearing a lot of response when I ask around the neighborhood, my kids, anybody. They really like this marina light, but another thing I'm hearing about though, online and same people that like the marina ones is that being dark sky compliant is really important to a lot of people here. And am I right, Mike, that this marina style one is less so? I mean, it looks like it has more of a glow.
So that particular picture is, it had a globe, but the glass version of this does not have a globe. And so it's a flat lens that shines straight down, similar to the option 2. So the housing and the lens are all above that first shield. And then
It has
it's
the
just.
same specs. Have you seen it? You know what I mean by the effect of the glowing bulb? I mean, even though you don't want it projecting light or in your eyes if you're trying to see. Okay, but as long as you're looking, I'll also mention that the cost is a factor. It's $50,000 more to use than the one. So, but is there something that can be adjusted if there really was more preference by most people to have this marina fixture? Is there another adjustment that could be made that would cut back a couple poles and have you revisited? I hate to even ask about.
So we've maximized the height and the spacing, so I can't go up anymore to spread them out further.
And the arm, you say, isn't a whole lot of difference in price between one arm and another, so that's not a factor that has to be decided so much.
Correct. It's really the cost of the fixture is what the primary difference between the options are.
Can you,
I feel like there's enough interest in that Glassworks fixture, and it suits a lot of the history of our area, that I would make a motion to continue with that fixture. The only reason I would let that motion go if there is another option that's gonna save us even more money, but whatever we can do, because it still has a unique charm to it.
So, Laura, you're
why
making,
it's so much more?
sorry, Laura, are you making a motion for a decision tonight then on that option?
I'm considering it with the question of if you can name what it is that makes such a cost difference between one and the other than we need a few more poles. How we get to $50,000 more for the marina style.
I think there's a breakdown there.
Yeah.
Well, there is, but I mean, if there's something that in the quality of the lights or the company that you know of that we can't tell from the breakdown or within our packet.
Probably you're paying for the aesthetics.
Okay.
They're pricing it according to what they think they can get for it. And if enough people are trying to select that one, they're pricing it a little bit higher versus, you know, another one that maybe isn't as common or isn't as desired. From what I've seen, the quality, they're all aluminum construction, they're all glass lenses, you know, they're painted black. From a quality perspective, they're all high quality fixtures.
Is there a width on the fixture itself, on either one? Because I don't see it.
Did you say a width?
Yeah, the width of the fixture itself. Like it's really hard to tell perspective wise. I'm trying to find the big.
I don't think we need to get into that level of detail necessarily for this. We're just kind of looking at general style choices, and we don't necessarily need to make a choice tonight. Just keep that in mind. And Tom does have this other option that he's hoping to get included in the mix here.
Okay. There's always a preference I'm picking up on to, you know, get decisions made and move along to the next thing. So if it was possible, it seemed reasonable, but I'm good with seeing more options and giving it more time.
We have,
For everyone else.
can someone refresh my memory? Have we made a decision on how far we're going with these yet?
Yes.
Yes,
So it's going to 6th Avenue West.
Okay.
to First Avenue East.
Okay.
In the first phase.
So the pricing here, just to clarify, Mike, or Scott, is this for the whole project, both phases?
Oh, it is for both phases.
So we're talking about, the difference in cost is total overall for all of the decorative lighting.
I was wrong.
So if you look at it that way, it's not quite as bad.
Right.
To go to the middle level instead of, you know, feeling like we need to go bargain basement. But, but it's what everybody would like to see. This is a kind of a big decision. How do we want the downtown to look for the next however many years? At least 2 decades, if not many more. And part of that, many more, is based on the type of pole that we're looking at, being aluminum instead of iron.
Right.
You know, that rusts like you can see in Ashland. If you look closely at those lights along the lake shore, they're really in rough shape, and those are not really all that old, I don't think.
There's a lot of them gone.
And yeah, so so the overall cost is obviously something we want to pay attention to, but we also need to pay attention to what we want and what is the best choice for our downtown and the look of it. So with that, so that's not a motion from Laura.
Could you clarify something you had said earlier? The marine fixture, how is that different? You said it was going to be different than what the picture was?
Different than what?
So I think Carl's talking about, the picture itself here has a bulb that is different than the actual bulb. So this one has what is it called?
Globe.
A globe.
Globe.
So this is a globe light. So this whole thing is lighting up.
Right.
The one here, it's a flat disc at the top within the casing at the top, and it's above this, what is it called? The thing,
Shield.
the shield, thank you. And so the light literally just goes down, and this is just glass with no bulb in there at all.
Okay.
And so
So it's still the same shape, it's just, okay.
yeah, the construction of it is dark sky compliant, so that it's
Yeah,
just
okay.
shining down and not glowing out from all sides.
All right.
It will still contain the cage, the glow protector.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just for
with that
aesthetics.
globe, the optics on it are very inefficient because it doesn't let the light out of the glass. It lights the glass up, but it doesn't cast the light onto the roadway.
Right.
So I have a question for Carl. What is currently at the marina? Do we have site lighting down there?
Yeah, floodlights,
Okay, so you don't have any pole lights or anything, okay,
not like that.
okay. If you were to have some, option one would probably fit the bill.
Well, then you have to remember people are sleeping in the boats and they don't like the light shining through the portholes at night. So, it's, the docks are all lit, all the pedestals have LED lights in them, so there's plenty of light for walking.
I was saying more like in the parking lot area.
Yeah, there's, trying to remember, there's some lights on the building that shine out on the parking lot.
Okay.
Karen, go ahead.
Mayor, I would like to make a motion that we gather more information and come back in May. However, I'm not ready to make the motion because I'm not sure we've agreed on what the three options are that we might want to ask for more information on. And so I'm suggesting that we should do that. So we have our three options. And then I would like to make a motion. We gather more information.
So just to clarify that, with Mike, the candy cane arm option could just be another option of arm that would go with the current choice of light. Is that correct?
Correct. Here, I'll share my screen. Here's a similar situation where you'd have the candy cane. Oh, what screen am I sharing?
Yeah, that's the right one. We're
Okay.
seeing the candy cane lights over the highway.
Okay, so that's what the candy cane off the top of the pole would look like. It's not quite the same fixture, but it's a fully cut off fixture like that.
So we could keep this fixture that we're looking at, the Glassworks fixture, and you'll just show it on a different pendant arm. So it could be like option 2A.
Correct.
So
And those arms are close enough together that if I just replace this arm with the candy cane, it'll give you the visual effect. And then again, anything on these is interchangeable.
So the filigree that we see, and I'll call it filigree, I don't know if that's the right word, but the scrolling we see in the picture that we have would be simply an add-on to a candy cane arm.
yeah, there.
If anyone is looking these up on the Hall of Fame website, they're all the Glassworks pendants are listed as Glassworks and Hall of Fame, but they have names below them too. And the one that looks like we're looking at is actually the Prague Prismatic. Does that sound right, Mike?
Yes, I believe so.
So Mike, did you follow the question about the scrolling on that candy cane? So this photo that we have here,
You would like to see it with scrolling?
is that part of what
Yeah.
you're? Yeah, I think that was the,
Scrolling.
it would include the scrolling.
That would get,
And so I think if we have Mike incorporate that arm choice in with the current fixtures,
With option 2 fixtures.
with option 2 fixture, we're still really looking at the 3 fixtures, but with different choices of the arms and combinations. And so maybe, I don't know if it's too much to ask to come up with a couple of different combinations of these things. Or do you just vote for a fixture and an arm, I guess, would be the easiest way to do it. So we need to know the fixture and the arm, both, correct?
Yes.
And the cable as well, or connector,
The candy cane won't require that.
nope.
if it requires it though.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, Mike, do you have enough information to be able to incorporate that scrolled candy cane into our options?
Sure.
And so Karen, would your motion then be to take that?
Mayor, I would make a motion that we delay making a decision on decorative lighting until our May meeting. In the interim, that the 3 options that we have discussed with the variations in option 2 be presented or included on our website or on our Facebook to get additional input from the residents of the community.
Okay, motion by
I would
Karen,
second that.
second by Tom.
So we're including all of the options.
So because this option really is just the arm as an extra option, it's the same fixture, I think it's fine to just incorporate the candy cane as an arm option.
Okay. But we're still, option 1, 2, and 3 are still gonna be put out to the public.
Correct, with
Okay.
mix, with the option of an additional arm choice.
10-4.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to delay the decision to the May meeting and gather a public input once we have a final set of choices. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Will you be including the cost on that?
Yes, we should definitely include the cost.
I should have said that.
In
That was
that.
my intent.
I mean, kind of as, you know,
Yeah.
I wouldn't include all the detail, but I would include the total.
I think that, yeah, the detail can be on the website, I think that's
Yeah,
fine,
I guess.
if people really want to look into all of those details, but.
It's the bottom line.
It's the bottom line, yeah. That's important. Okay. Excellent. Thank you, Mike, for helping us out with that. And our next item is also relating to streetlight options. So it's a discussion and action on streetlight options outside of the decorative zone for Bayfield Street reconstruction. So this is tab 4 of your packet. And as Scott has in the memo, basically there's 2 options for outside of the decorative lighting area. Either we reuse the Excel poles that are there currently, or we replace them with DOT lighting, which the city would then be responsible for maintaining. Do you have anything further to add, Scott?
So I do want to clarify on that this would be for outside the area where we have decorative lighting, but we have actual street poles. So the recommendation is to use those. If we go on the fringes of the community, both on the east side and on the west or the south side, we do have some of the areas where we just have the light pole attached to, the light arm attached to a wooden pole. And we would maintain those in those locations. So basically, everything outside of the decorative zone would be as it is today.
If we replace with DOT lighting, we would only be replacing those poles that are non-wooden then, is what you're saying?
No,
Oh,
that's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is outside, the recommendation would be outside of the decorative area,
Yeah.
everything would be as it is today. So the remaining area where we have Excel lights would have those Excel lights. The areas where there are just the light on a wooden pole would have those lights on the wooden pole.
in either scenario?
Yes.
So if we replace with DOT lighting, it would be similar to what we have for the XL lighting? You're
I
saying it would
don't
be the
know.
same in either instance? I'm not following you. Someone help me out here.
Would WISDOT replace the lights on the wooden poles?
Right now, there's no intention to.
Okay.
Dave?
So the areas outside of the decorative lighting zone, in my opinion, could stay the way they are. Is there a
That's his
financial
recommendation.
benefit to, Excel wants to keep them that way? I would assume that they don't have any issue with us replacing some and not all. So I know that it's their pole and their light, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. And so are they putting pressure on us to get rid of their lights?
No.
Okay. So then, I think we can just keep what's there currently. And
They have to be removed during the project and then replaced.
Yep.
So,
right.
So they'll be salvaged and reused. And that is the most cost-effective option, and there really, I don't see any reason to do anything other than that.
Right.
right. My point was, do not expect these current Excel poles to be extended where they are not.
Got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
And so the ones that are being removed and replaced with decorative lighting, Excel will take them back.
Correct.
Right, we won't be able to use those in other portions. Okay, got it. Thank you. Okay, so with that clarified.
Mayor, I would make a motion that we approve option one, which would be to use continue to use Excel poles outside of the decorative zone as they are currently there.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Karen and a second by Carl to go with option one, salvaging and reusing the existing Excel lighting in the areas where they exist currently outside of the decorative lighting zone.
Correct. Yeah.
Any further comments, questions, or discussion?
Sorry, I have a couple questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, I've been so concentrated on that zone of decorative. I guess I haven't looked at what it looks like coming into town and leaving town.
And that's
And so we're
good. We don't want you to pay attention to that.
It's work.
No, right? Because I know it's a lot of poles, but it's our one opportunity to make sure that they're decent, right? They're like,
Yeah,
they're
They're
okay.
minimal, like, they're slim on top. I was looking at them today, and I get the impression that what we would get with the DOT would be, we don't know what we would get. It would just be a timber with something affixed to it, right? No, what are you saying, Mike?
No, DOT would only do aluminum poles with aluminum arms and LED overhead style fixtures.
So it would be similar-ish, but we would have to pay for them and maintain them.
Okay, so this is the most cost-effective way to keep them, and I find them kind of unnoticeable. Yeah.
Alright, oh, that's just it. Like, I'm trying to like look outside my window to see exactly like, you know, and I'm assuming they're fine. I guess I just always just don't want us to miss an opportunity because I know that we're trying to save money. I know it's expensive, but I also don't want us to go a couple of years from now going, why did we leave those stupid crappy poles on the end of town? Right?
Yeah.
So we're all good.
We've made that initial determination that they're decent lights and we would be fine with that.
Now that's,
Mike shared his screen.
But isn't that a wood pole?
That's a wood.
There's the first, okay.
So we're on Google Earth here, so that's the wooden pole that Mike is showing.
That's
And look,
aluminum.
it's a clean red barn.
Open this spring. But that's not an Excel pole.
No.
What he showed.
Well, it is an Excel pole, but it's wood.
Oh, okay, okay.
Okay, so
Here is 10th Avenue is where your aluminum Excel poles start.
Okay.
and that's the current,
Okay.
that's the more recent
Okay.
photo, right?
Yes, yes, that is the new, well, it might be the old Cobra heads yet. I don't think it's the new LEDs.
Yeah, those aren't the LEDs.
But that's a
So-
good picture of one, yeah.
And then here's at 9th. So for the first couple blocks, they're not very uniformly spaced. It's primarily a splash at the intersections. And then as you get further into town, it becomes more uniform.
Thank you for the visual.
And they really are fine if you look up close, if you look closely at them.
Great.
Thank you.
Did you have anything else, Jen?
No.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any other questions?
I guess, I have one for Mike. I just thought of this.
Go ahead.
If we, install the new decorative lighting in a decorative zone, that has a different, lumen factor on the highway, are we required to maintain that throughout the highway? So the current Excel poles, outside of that decorative zone, would they still be okay? We wouldn't have to add any more in those non-decorative areas.
The lighting would be okay as is, right?
The existing is primarily a, what they call it, just an intersection splash. So it's not continuous lighting, it's isolated lighting. Until you get into, I forget, I think it might be 9th, or maybe it's when you get into 8th, then it becomes continuous lighting. And that was installed per DOT guidelines.
So once it becomes continuous, it's okay that the Excel lumens may be slightly different than the decorative lumens as long as it's consistent within each of those areas, correct?
Correct. So there's a difference between continuous and non-continuous.
Okay.
When it's continuous, it needs to meet standard. When it's non-continuous, it's just a splash at an intersection.
So the continuous lighting outside of the decorative zone, that will be okay.
That would have to, currently it was designed to meet DOT standards, so it wouldn't have to change because it
Okay.
meets.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Comments? Discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Excellent. We can give the DOT a decision on that one tomorrow morning. This one they are waiting for so that they can get moving on the designs. So thank you for that. And our next item is discussion and action on master contract with Ayers and Associates, Inc. and supplement agreement for services related to the State Highway 13 reconstruction projects and formalization of city working group for Mayfield Street reconstruction projects. Tab 5 in your packet. Scott, do you want to do any sort of an introduction beyond what you have laid out in your memo?
So basically, this agreement is to provide further assistance and guidance for issues that come up related to this project that are outside of the original scope that Ayers has provided. As we've gotten into this, and we've had, what are we on, 4 or 5 different DOT project managers so far since we've started this project. It's clear that Ayers' expertise is
Invaluable.
yes, invaluable during some of these discussions as things sort of get changed and rehashed and changed again. So this, as things come up, we can have certain agreements if we choose to do so. So that is why you have the master agreement and then a supplemental agreement to assist with that. Granted, these are kind of as we use them services, so we have to keep things, under control. We don't have a never-ending bank as well, so that's something that we have to be conscious of. So I just throw that out there. So, but I would recommend approval of that. And then we can also discuss our working group.
I would move to approve the master agreement with Ayers and Associates Incorporated.
I'll second that.
So that's a motion in and of itself
Yes.
to approve the agreement.
Yes.
That was a motion by Carl and a second by Tom.
Does that include the supplemental agreement as well?
Yes.
Okay.
So the master contract and the supplemental agreement. Are there questions on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I'd make another motion to approve the current working group for the Bayfield Street project.
Second that motion.
So there's a motion to approve the current working group and a second. Does anyone have questions on that, or Scott, with clarification?
So, so to clarify, sometimes the number of decisions that or issues that we discuss can be numerous and complex. For example, today we were discussing a potential bump out that might be necessary at the intersection of 7th Avenue because of a ADA issue with the crosswalk, but we could have had 2 different options and blah, 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 blah. Every time we run into an issue, we don't want to or have to, we'll run out of time if we have to bring everything to the council. So sometimes the working group needs to be able to make some of these decisions. I think we have a pretty good understanding of the important things like streetlights and stuff where you want to have more input, but sometimes some of these more minor issues, we have to be able to make a decision.
And in addition to that, keeping in mind that the design that is recommended will come to the public for input. And so, if there is a decision that this group has made to move forward with, it will have a time to be looked at and acted upon or changed. you know, if it's something that is really problematic that we somehow missed or something like that. So it's not like that would be the final word on some of these things anyway. So having said that, are there any other questions on this? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. We do have someone here for an item that has been waiting, that if anyone cares to make a motion to amend the agenda, we could dispose with a couple of items here and move to the discussion and action on the alcohol license, if anyone were to care to make a motion to do that.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Dave and a second by Karen to amend the agenda to move up to the next item, the alcohol license issue. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So, with that said, next item is discussion and action on approval of a Class B alcohol license for 211 Martini Bar LLC at 211 West Bayfield Street. So this was posted, correct?
Correct.
And I don't know if you have anything that you'd like to state, Dave, or, sorry, do you go by David or Dave?
David.
David. Have you gotten any feedback? You can do it, wrestle it away.
I have not, no. Well, you know, everybody and their mother stops by.
I bet.
And I broached the subject casually when they asked what's coming in, and I said, well, I'm not sure yet. What would you think about a martini bar? And everybody seems happy, and a lot of people said, well, as long as it's not offices. So, I haven't heard anything negative, however, I'm not saying that there's not that sentiment around.
Sure. Let's see, this is tab number 8. Is there, oh, I had notes, but I think they're irrelevant. I was wondering what the hours of operation would be, and is there a minimum number of hours of operation required, but apparently there's not. Once a year maybe, or something like that, you have to be open. Do you have a plan for?
My goal is maybe 4 p.m. to 9. I don't want it to be an end the night place. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So can I just take like 90 seconds and just tell you what I think about the place?
Sure.
I don't know if you guys go to Holiday or to Quick Trip, but to me, they're two completely separate things. Holiday is a gas station that also sells food, right? Whereas Quick Trip is like a little grocery store that also sells gas. And I know that doesn't make much difference, but it's reflected really in how the business operates. And so for me, when I think about bars, there's really 3 types of bars. There's a restaurant that serves alcohol. I'm not that. There's a place that sells drinks, and to keep you there, they're going to have some pool tables or some sports on the TV, right? And I don't want to have that place either. So what I'm looking to do is have a nice place to go to socialize, right? And while you're there, you can get a nice drink. Right? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So that's my goal. So I don't need the hours to go until 2 a.m. I don't want that. What I want is just a place for people our age to just be able to go just before dinner or after dinner, or go for a walk with your spouse and stop in to just spend some time together. That's the goal.
Great. And seasonal or year-round?
I don't know yet.
Okay. Just curious.
Yeah.
Mayor, I would move approval of the application for a Class B alcohol license for 211 Martini Bar LLC at 211 West Bayfield Street.
I'll second.
Motion by Karen, second by Dave. Are there any other questions, comments, or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Excellent. Congratulations and good luck to you.
Thank you all.
Have a great night.
Can you either contact me tomorrow or I'll contact you?
Yep, and I'll bring you the updated tomorrow's, or the next month's thing.
All right, thank you.
All right, moving back to the discussion and action on updating job description for utility operator. Scott?
This is basically just a cleanup item, just updating a job description to make it a little more current with some of the changes that have occurred.
Mayor, I would move approval of the updated job description for the utility operator.
A second?
Any questions for Scott on this? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, discussion and action on request to hire an intern. Tab 7. Scott?
So I have done this in the past, both in other places and here. Used to do it till funding got tight and then the funding went away, so couldn't do it anymore. Do have an opportunity this year with the change that we made, so this might just be a one-time deal, if we can find an appropriate candidate for it. But I'd like to give it a try. Got some projects that I think would be good and someone could work independently on. So that is the request there for reallocating up to $13,000 to cover up to 800 hours, which basically is 20 weeks at $15 an hour plus FICA.
And just to clarify, it could be for less than that if you find someone who's only available for 16 weeks or something like that.
Correct.
Karen?
And would this be a bachelor level or a master level? I mean, do you have any thoughts about how you would craft it in terms of who the best candidates would be?
This would most likely be bachelor level, but if there is a master candidate, I could probably swing that too. So.
Karen?
One other question, and you'd have sources, I mean, that you would go to in terms of, is there a clearinghouse for, in terms of this caliber, or do you just have to put the word out in general to get applicants?
I do advertise locally in case there are, families or students who live here but are away at school. Otherwise, I can inform various colleges of various programs. The difficulty is getting somebody up here for the summer and a place to stay. So,
Okay.
Seasonal housing.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Are there any other questions for Scott on this? Or is there a motion?
Mayor, I would move that we approve requesting hiring of an intern for 20 weeks at $15 an hour, or what works best for the ideal candidate.
So up to that amount?
Up to that amount.
Second.
Okay, that was a second by Jen. Any other questions or comments on this item? Everyone is clear that this is just money that we have because we have not hired the half-time person yet, right? That's where this funding exists, how this funding exists?
Correct, and there's a little bit of a gap between the half-time and the full-time this year.
Sure. So it doesn't affect the budget?
No.
Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Excellent. So we did postpone one decision and did not complete our business, so I would look for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
A second?
Motion by Dave to adjourn, second by Carl. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We stand adjourned.